Hey guys, Temporal here, and today I am going to talk about Winston GOATS. The composition that I'm specifically referring to is Winston, Diva, Zarya, Briggs, Lucio, and Zen. Primarily, I'm going to talk about how this composition plays into Zen GOATS, as by and large, that composition and this one are the two seeing the most use in organized play right now. That said, a fair bit of what I say is transferable to the other matchups, and I'll try to touch on them where relevant. When playing this comp, you're going to look to hit short range dives that your entire team can immediately charge into as a follow up. Winston jumps in with Harmony Orb, drops his bubble right on the edge in front of Zen before he lands, and ultimately he wants to land right behind that Zen. This bubble stops Discord from being applied to any of Winston's teammates and splits healing from Lucio's Aura, Briggs's Inspire. It also creates split issues for Sound Barrier's application, Transcendence immediately getting those healing ticks off, making it much more challenging for the Zen GOATS team to stop a burst kill with one of those ultimates. Winston's going to get bubbled by his Zarya right before he lands, but preferably after he's already dropped his bubble. This clears any discord that's on him at the moment, and Zen can't apply a new discord to his teammates because Winston's bubble is in the way. If Winston executed properly, Zen is now stuck in a no-win choice. He can either retreat into his teammates, which are now being dove or charged by Winston's team, and that's going to give Winston really juicy cleave, because remember, now Winston's on that flank behind them, zapping into a big group of people, gets that big cleave, and Zen can't shoot back at Winston because Zen retreated into Winston's bubble, and Winston's right outside of it. If, on the other hand, Zen stays outside of his bubble, he's now dueling a Winston who's on top of him, has our Harmony Orb, got about a second of relevant Zarya bubble time, and if necessary, we'll get the armor pack from Briggs. That's not going to go very well. Zenyatta's also cut off from Inspire healing because of that bubble, and is only going to get help from Lucio and Lucio's auras if Lucio comes outside of the bubble to help. Even if Lucio comes outside to help, Winston's still not in any real danger. He got all that pocket from that Harmony Orb, that Zarya bubble, that Briggs armor pack. Okay, maybe now he doesn't kill Zen. Maybe he still does, but he's not really in any serious danger. And now that Lucio's Aura, or Sound Barrier if necessary, aren't immediately going to go back into the bubble that the fight is happening in. So while Winston is jumping, his entire team, and I do mean his entire team, this includes Zen, Lucio, Zarya, Briggs, and Diva, are going to charge in on the kill target. Briggs is going to immediately break off, though, to bash Reinhardt and whip shot him away. The instant this bash hits, Zenyatta needs to get Discord up on the kill target. Briggs is going to stay in this little mini 1v1 on Rein in order to try to keep him and his cleave damage out of the fight, as those are kind of scary. Reinhardt hurts. She's got the tools to do that. Her whip flail lets her hit little knockbacks. It'll slow Rein down getting back. It doesn't need to last a long time, but you need to keep Rein out for a few seconds. But for the rest of the team, the remaining four, they're going to go ahead and find a kill on that discorded targets. Good Discord targets are going to be Briggs, Zarya, Lucio, or if Zen was playing really close to his team in the first place, he's a great kill target as well. You don't want to go after Rein. He's away from the team now. He's got all that health. You don't really want to go after Diva either unless your Zarya is already high charge and you plan on following it up with a Grav, as she's got too much health, takes longer. You really need to win this fight in this burst window here. Your backline supports aren't in terrible danger. I know it's going to be scary for them when training them to do this. It can take some motivation, but as long as your Zenyatta comes in there with the whole team, he's still got his Diva right there with him. The Briggs armor pack probably isn't available unless your Winston was just dominating the fight in the back and didn't need it. Your Zarya bubble definitely isn't available, but you still have defense matrix to protect your Zen, and your Zen came in, so is there with your Diva, and your Zarya can step in the way, use her personal bubble. You can peel the things that are coming after your Zen with damage. If the other Zarya wants to commit on your Zen, great. Zarya's the kill target. Let's go ahead and kill this Zarya. And Lucio's there too. Boops, healing aura. You probably used your amp to initiate the fight, but if you didn't because you were really close, you could potentially have that as well. So the big takeaways here, if you're trying to learn the comp, are that Winston gets Harmony Orb, Zarya Bubble, and Armor Pack if necessary. The backline does have to charge in, but D.Va is part of this backline charge, as well as Lucio, so you've still got Boops and DM to keep your Zen alive if the other team goes full aggro on him. Get this resource allocation right, hit your jump packs and Winston Bubble perfectly, and actually commit that full backline to the charge, and you're going to do great with this comp. Mess them up, though, and the Zen GOATS team is just going to farm you. A couple things to keep in mind. Shatter is scary. Even though this comp sometimes gets called dive goats by some, it does not spread out and consistently play from high ground like a real dive comp. Instead, it clumps its large backline together without a Rhine shield, much like a Protect the McCree comp. I actually consider this comp a closer cousin to Protect the McCree than I do to Goats, regardless of what the community has chosen to name this comp. If your Winston and Zarya are absolutely on it, they can block Shatter with bubbles. But honestly, that's not how I recommend doing it. You're going to need those bubbles for initiation. If you have to use them pre-fight to block the Shatter, as soon as Winston Bubble goes away, if the other team gets the opportunity to overrun you, they're going to, and they can win without having gotten any kills during Shatter. So instead, what you want to do here is set up for the normal play, close range dive, short range dive, but put your backline right behind a corner so that they can't be shattered. And then when you dive in, have your Winston go, everyone follows him in, but his bubble was dropped immediately over the fight, and your Briggs is going to try to knock the Reinhardt out of the bubble. So you've still got a chance here of this working out quite well, Shatter not being able to be used. If Shatter does still get value, that's what support ults are for. We use them. They hit us with a Shatter, we get a trans, we'll be okay. It's Goats. They'll answer with their own. Goats continues. That brings us to Primal Rage. So, with Winston Goats, instead of Shatter, we get Primal Rage. It's actually not a bad deal. Winston gets to do a lot of free high ground drops with Zarya Bubble. He'll get the Harmony Orb and Armor Pack too if necessary. Onto Goats teams, he hits some nice cleave damage. You really have to deal with him. It's really hard to just not shoot at his Zarya Bubble when he's doing that. So your Zarya is still going to get some charge. Not as much as she'd get in a standard Goats v Goats match, but that's how you help charge up your Primal and get your Zarya some bit of energy maintenance. This throwing of a pocketed monkey plus Zarya right clicks plus Zen shooting orbs is this comp's version of poking. It actually works pretty well as an answer too against more poke-based comps that are trying to pick on this comp. Say they put a soldier, a widow, a Hanzo, something like that on high ground. Throwing a pocketed monkey at them is a pretty good way to scare them off, even if they've got their own pocket. Once you've gone ahead and charged up that Primal, splitting a Goats team with it and then hitting your normal play where everyone charges in, does that full backline commit, makes it really easy to get a teamfight win. It just splits them up even more. You'll notice this comp was already doing a good job of splitting the Zen GOATS team up. With Primal, it's child's play to do so. Easy win. This composition is amazingly powerful in this meta. Its only disadvantaged matchup is against heavy poke comps, and between map geometry, just flat out denying those comps in many spots, and the amount of sustained poke that needs to be done without ever finding a 4 to 5 second break to let Winston GOATS recover with its healing, poke comps aren't a terribly strong counter. Winston GOATS then has advantage over just about any other composition type it'll run into, except perhaps Zen GOATS, where I consider the matchup to be pretty even. That statement may get some gripes from some of you, as you've probably noticed that in Tier 2 and Tier 3 play, most teams are electing to swap off of Winston GOATS when they're playing into Zen GOATS and go for that regular Zen GOATS mirror. I don't really consider that because Zen GOATS is better in the mirror, though. I consider that to be because Winston GOATS is harder to execute properly than Zen GOATS. There's more breakpoints in Winston GOATS than Zen GOATS. If you want to think of Zen GOATS as having the better matchup, though, because there's less things that can go wrong, that's totally fair. But once the execution of both comps climbs to a high enough level, it really stops being true. So that's what I've got today. If you have questions or something you'd like me to go over in the future, feel free to let me know. Thanks, guys. Temporal out.